Welcome to the first in our mini-series of videos that'll dive deep into the different types of experiences that you can head out and enjoy when you're traveling with us through Africa. On our website there is a section in the what we call the mega menu, which you'll find up here, where you can see all the different types of experiences that you can really do when you're exploring this incredible continent. In today's video we're going to dive into what is the staple of any safari, and that is the game drive. So first things first, what is a game drive? Great question. Game drive is something that you go out on typically twice a day. It's when you head out into the bush on safari in a vehicle. There are a number of different types of vehicle, which we'll get into in a little bit, but essentially you go out typically in the morning and in the afternoon, and it's the best way to get close to wildlife. So morning game drive, well, you typically wake up at around 5:30, depending on the time of the year. If it's in the summer, a little bit earlier sometimes even than 5 because it's so hot. But usually in the winter it's about a 5:30 wake up call, meet for a little bit of a breakfast, and then head out in search of whatever you're looking for that day. That might be looking for lions, it might be looking for elephants, it might just be going out and just exploring and see what happens, which is also really huge amounts of fun. The drive will last between 3 hours, 5 hours. Sometimes in the middle of the winter you might even be able to do a full day drive, which means you can also have a picnic out there, and that means you can just really get out there and see different habitats, or just stick with animals. If you're watching a pair of cheetah hunting, there's no need to come back. You can just stay there and watch them, which is awesome fun. Usually about halfway through the drive you'll stop for a coffee and a biscuit or a cookie, which is a nice way just to stretch your legs a bit, have a coffee to perk you up, or a hot chocolate, before you carry on a little bit more, and then eventually you're heading back into camp for brunch. Some countries you come back slightly earlier and you have breakfast, then have a lunch and then a tea, and then go out. Afternoon safari, you'd usually head out at around 3:30ish, 4 o'clock again, and then that will come into a night drive. So you'll have a sundowner, which is a must on safari, and then you'll have a night drive where you have a spotlight and you slowly make your way back towards camp using the spotlight to try and find the more nocturnal animals. We try not to shine on diurnal, to animals that are active during the day, when we're going around at night with the spotlight, because that can really badly affect their night vision, and it has an unfair advantage for predators and an unfair disadvantage for the prey species. The beauty of game drives is it really does give you the best chance to get close to wildlife. In some areas you're able to off-road and actually approach pretty close. You'll never want to park directly next to an animal, but if you park within, by park I mean stop, within 10-15 meters away from say some lions, that's perfect. You can get a great view with these zoom lenses these days. Even with mobile phones these days you get phenomenal photos, and you really feel like you're in there with the pride. Sometimes even those animals will actually get up and walk right past the vehicle, which is amazing and adrenaline inducing. But the game drive is the best chance to do that. On foot, we never try and get that close to wildlife. We certainly won't approach them in that manner. And on horses, yeah, you can sometimes. Boats, very different feeling as well. But game drive's really for getting close to wildlife, for taking great photos and videos. It's the absolute best. It's also a really good way to learn about what you're watching as well, because from the safety of the vehicle, your guide's able to really relax and share with you exactly what's happening. When you're on foot, again, you've got to stay quite quiet, and it's not really about sharing that much knowledge there and then, maybe afterwards when you get back. So game drive is an absolutely brilliant way to learn about the wildlife and to get super close to it, which is phenomenal. Game drive also gives you the great opportunity to explore, as I've said, further and wider. On foot it takes longer, on horseback it takes longer, on rivers and water channels you're obviously limited to where that is. So the game drive allows you to explore so many different habitats within one drive, and I absolutely adore that, whether that's going down floodplains, whether it's going through woodlands, whether it's going up mountains. It's absolutely amazing. In terms of the different types of vehicles, there are, I'd say, 3 main types. There are 2 main brands, a third and now even a 4th potentially coming in. In terms of the types, well, you have closed vehicles, which usually have a pop-up roof. These are really more often than not in East Africa, or if you're on a mobile safari, sometimes in Botswana or Namibia. In Namibia, they use them because you're doing long distances on roads which get quite dusty, so it's nice to stay kind of away and out of that. In Kenya and in Tanzania, in certain national parks, they're a requirement, like in the Ngorongoro crater. And in other areas, it's because you're moving from camp to camp to camp to camp. So you're doing some days which are quite a lot longer, and so having the comfort of the closed vehicle is quite helpful. You also have vehicles then which are predominantly found throughout Africa, most African countries. This is the main type, which is an open vehicle, but it has a canvas roof, and that means that you can see perfectly outside, so from the sides and in front. Behind you if something's going behind you, but it also has the benefit of keeping you shaded when you're out for long hot days. The only disadvantage to that canvas vehicle is the more canvas roofed vehicle, the vehicle is not made out of canvas, is that it's harder to see the stars when you're driving back in the evening. It's harder to see birds if they're flying around, but in all honesty, it's an absolutely brilliant way to go around, because in Zambia, in Botswana, it can get pretty hot. There is another type of vehicle, and that is the same chassis, the exact same feel of vehicle, but without the canvas roof on top. These are amazing, and I must say, these are my absolute favourites, except for when it gets really hot. The reason is you have that full spectrum of vision, and you can see absolutely everything. I love spotting the eagles as they're flying over, getting deep into the bush when you're off-roading and you're really under, and you can get under the branches and through the thickets without the canopy being potentially damaged, and then you can view a leopard above you like that, and it's amazing. I adore those vehicles, but in countries where you're out for a longer period of time, it can get pretty hot without those on, and then that can get really draining. So there are pros and cons to all the vehicles. My favourite for going out and about, because I just love heading deep into the bush, is the completely open one, but each has its own benefit. And so that about wraps up what a game drive is. I adore them. They are, without a doubt, the best way to see as much as possible, comfortable, and no matter how able you are, it's brilliant. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm sure we will soon be releasing a video on walking safaris.